questions and answers aspect of the presentation, which we will do at the end. So the purpose of today, I'm going to run through ILAC P15. This is a mandatory document which is issued by ILAC, and the newest revision was issued in May. Sorry. Apologies. I'll go through the main changes of this document and how these will be assessed by INAB, and also some of the requirements of the document. Just some points to note. Questions can be submitted through the question and answer panel in WebEx. Please avoid questions relating to specific cases or individual examples. And also the webinar is being recorded for information purposes and will be available on the INAB website. So what is ILAC? The acronym stands for the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. It's a global association for accreditation of laboratories, inspection bodies, proficiency testing providers, and also reference material producers. There's a mutual recognition arrangement among accreditation bodies, and this means that the results that are issued by inspection bodies accredited by ILAC accreditation body members are accepted globally. All accreditation bodies that are signatories to the MRA must undergo a peer evaluation, and INAB participated in this in INAB in 2018. Members of ILAC and the organisations they accredit must comply with ILAC application documents, and this is ILAC P15 is one of them. We also have ILAC G21, which is the cross-frontier accreditation, and the INAB list of mandatory documents, DC1, which is on the INAB website, lists all of the requirements that must be complied with. INAB issued a notification, notification 32, which is on the INAB website, on how ILAC P15 would be implemented. The document was published in May 2020 and is available from the ILAC website. It was updated as a result of the ILAC Inspection Committee workshops, which meet yearly, ISO CASCO clarification requests, and also the experience that was gained from the previous version of implementing ILAC P15, which was 2016. The implementation date for the new version is November 2021. Which is 18 months from the date of publication. And INAB will assess the implementation and the awareness of the document during routine surveillance activities. So what is ILAC P15? It's an information document on the application of 1720 for inspection bodies. It's a mandatory document in that there are clauses and requirements in it that must be applied by accreditation bodies and inspection bodies. It's used by accreditation bodies, assessing inspection bodies for accreditation, and also inspection bodies who are seeking to fulfill the requirements of the standard. Each note, the structure of the document is such that each note is identified by the relevant clause number of 1720 and a suffix. So for example, 4.1 note 1 is the first note in relation to clause 4.1 of 1720. The term shall is used to indicate requirements that are mandatory, and should is used to indicate a recognised means of meeting the requirements. And if an inspection body doesn't use the should requirements, it must demonstrate to the accreditation body how it meets the requirements of the clause in an equivalent or a better way. So what are the main changes? There's a number of clarifications of concepts. The terms such as ongoing basis has been clarified, and impartiality risk analysis and control measures are some of the terms that have been clarified. The removal of a number of examples. P15 is a mandatory document, and it was thought that the inclusion of examples was confusing in light of the requirements that are listed. And there's also the addition of two annexes. Annex 1, which is a proposed format for an impartiality risk analysis, and Annex 2, which describes the relationship between impartiality and Type A independence requirements. Oops. There's also a section regarding the introduction of new technologies, such as it's recognised the use of drones, artificial intelligence, and special IT arrangements is increasingly used in inspection bodies, and it goes through the legal and safety requirements that might need to be considered, including and also the limitations of the technology as an inspection method. It's also been updated to take account of new standards and guidance since the last publication, such as the new version of 17025, new versions of ILAC G24, G27, and ILAC P8. And it also includes the agreed answers from the ILAC IC workshops over the last 4 years, questions that have been received to the IC workshop and have been answered by the committee. So now I'm going to go through the document and some of the main sections and some of the points that are brought through. This isn't an exhaustive run through P15, it's quite a large document, but just pulling out some of the main clauses and highlighting the changes. So ISO 1720 places the utmost importance on preventing the influencing of inspections. And there has been a new annex introduced with additional guidance for impartiality and independence. The term on an ongoing basis has been clarified as being whenever events occur which might have a bearing on the impartiality of the inspection body or its personnel. The inspection body is asked to describe any of its relationships or its personnel using organizational diagrams or similar means. There's a new note on the threats and inducements aimed at inspectors. The inspection body should record both real and perceived risks to impartiality of inspections and how these are dealt with. And all personnel working on behalf of the inspection body should be involved in the inspection body impartiality measures and provide the records to support this. The clause 4.1.3 of 1720 requires the inspection body to identify risks to impartiality on an ongoing basis. And clause 4.1.4 requires the IB to demonstrate how it eliminates or minimises such risks. In practice, the combination of these two clauses means that an impartiality risk analysis is required. And a possible format for an impartiality risk analysis is shown in Annex 1 of P15. And this is the format that they have suggested, which goes through the activities of the inspection body, the relationship, and the relationship of personnel. And a risk analysis is required for all different independence types, A, B, and C, because complying with type A independence, while it does increase the confidence in the impartiality arrangements, it does not eliminate all impartiality risks. And so the remaining risks have to be identified and minimized or eliminated. There are 3 independence types described in Annex A of 1720. Just a brief summary. Type A, the inspection body shall be independent of the parties involved, and the inspection body and its personnel shall not be engaged in the design, manufacture, use or maintenance of the items inspected. A type B body, the inspection services shall only be supplied to the organisation of which the inspection body is a part. And type C, the inspection body shall provide safeguards to ensure adequate segregation between inspection and other activities. Annex 2 of P15 then provides information on the relationship between impartiality and type A independence requirements. It states that complying with type A requirements is binary. It's a yes or no answer. Therefore, partly complying with it is not possible, nor is a risk analysis resulting in control measures to minimize the risks. And so elimination of the situation that is not compliant is the only mechanism for demonstrating that you meet independence requirements for type A. An inspection body may, however, have different types of independence for different inspection activities that it undertakes. And these must be clearly indicated on the scope of accreditation. It is not possible for the inspection body to offer different independent types for the same inspection activity. The term items inspected is clarified. It's referred to in Annex 1 of 1720. The items inspected are those specified in the accredited scope of the inspection body, example, pressure vessels. And there's a new note regarding the provision of consultancy. It's for items inspected is considered as a conflicting activity. The exception to this regarding regulatory requirements, this is permissible when undertaken as part of the regulated inspection activity and where it's written into the relevant legislation. There have been a few changes to the administrative requirements. There's been some guidance provided on the assessment of adequacy and the factors that need to be considered when determining the adequacy of provisions, and also clarification that the accreditation body is not responsible for assessing the adequacy of the provisions. There's a new note that keeping up to date with scheme developments is part of the continued competency requirements of the inspection body. And it may be relevant to provide information concerning personnel who work for other departments or other areas to assess the influence they may have over the inspection activities. There's also reference made to new technologies. The technical manager shall have the technical competence necessary to understand all issues and technologies involved in the performance of the inspection activities. For the competence requirements, it includes knowledge of the inspection body management system or the quality system. It also requires personnel to have the ability to implement administrative as well as technical procedures. And there's a new note included where competence requirements are already defined by regulators or scheme owners. These shall be mentioned and referenced from the management system. The mentored working period that is mentioned should include participation in inspections at the locations where these inspections are performed. On facilities and equipment, it's noted that if controlled environment conditions are needed, the inspection body shall monitor these and record the results. And there's also a requirement to document and retain the rationale related to the significance of equipment, because this is critical as regards later decisions for traceability and calibration. The justification for not calibrating equipment shall be recorded. ILAC P10 allows for in-house calibrations. However, they must ensure that there's metrological traceability. And I now have a policy statement 5, which is applicable to inspection bodies on the policy of measurement and traceability. It also includes selection and approval of suppliers, and approved suppliers are extended to include those who performed auxiliary services such as order registration, editing of inspection reports, and these are covered by the term services. There's a section on subcontracting stating that accreditation is the preferred means to demonstrate the competence of subcontractors, but in justified situations, results from non-accredited bodies could be accepted. And the inspection methods and procedures, reference is made to ILAC G27 if the inspection includes measurement. It's also 17007 for the development of inspection methods and procedures, specifically in relation to new technologies, and in the introduction of new technologies used for inspections. The limitations and conditions for the inspection methods. Should the use of new technology be mentioned in the inspection report or the accreditation scope? And consideration should be given to the legal and safety requirements and legal conditions. The management system requirements, there are not many changes to this section of P15. There's a new note stating that the policies and objectives shall address the competence, impartiality and consistent operation of the inspection body. It's recommended that the inspection body indicates and does a cross-reference as to how their management system meets the requirements of 1720. A review of the impartiality risk process should be part of the annual management review, and the management review should include a review of the effectiveness of systems established to ensure the competence of personnel. The internal audits, there's a new note regarding the frequency of internal audits. And when an inspection body detects problems, it should consider increase in the frequency and the depth of the internal audits. And these may arise either through complaints and appeals or through external audits. Competent externally contracted personnel can carry out audits. And then there's clarification, preventive actions are a proactive process of identifying potential non-conformities and opportunities for improvements rather than a reaction to identified non-conformities or complaints. So as I said, a number of the examples that were previously listed in ILAC P15 2016 have been removed. These are now contained in the ILAC website, and there's a searchable database on examples of the implementation of clauses of 1720. These are agreed by the ILAC Inspection Committee. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention, everybody. And are there any questions?
I think, Sinead, there's a few questions after coming in there. So we can have a look, and I may be able to answer one or two, and if give you a chance to catch your breath.
Okay.
And we can start. The first one here is related to, is ILAC mandatory when we consider the CASCO? I presume is this document mandatory P15, and I would say yes, that INAB is a signatory to ILAC, and also the EA also adopts the ILAC documents. So if we look at, there's a document, an EA document, INF01, and it's the list of EA publications and international documents, and that lists the ILAC policy documents, the P series, that's also applicable, and P15 is included there as well. The answer there would be yes. So there's a, yeah.
There's another question there that I see is Annex 1, just an example, or must it be adopted? No, these are informative annexes. So they're given as an example for how the clause may be addressed. It does give clarification that what is an impartiality risk assessment, risk analysis, and it's just a format, but there are other formats could be acceptable as well.
Okay, there's another one here, just I think making a point really, just that at type B, inspection bodies can inspect equipment not owned by the organization, and we're being directed towards a CASCO document, QS CAS Proc 33. So that's information for everyone. So we can have a look at that later. Another question now.
The inspection body shall be able to demonstrate how it eliminates or minimizes such risks. Does this mean that all identified risks need to be eliminated? Well, the process used for the management of risks and impartiality can differ depending on the size and the structure of the inspection body. And the standard doesn't denominate a specific technique or process for doing this, but the requirement is to minimize the risk, but there will always be a residual risk. So from the point of view of an assessment, this inspection body just needs to be able to demonstrate how it has established that the residual risk was acceptable, and that it remains at an acceptable level. So I don't know if that's sufficient.
Yeah. Okay, that's a similar one to the one we got before. Just regarding the FAQ, how they were developed, and how the answers situated in the assessment process. Okay, so that I think would be the FAQs. Sinead, do you know it? But I think they're kind of arrived at meetings, is it?
Yeah. So there's a process for the frequently asked questions there. Prior to each ILAC meeting, there's a template sent out, and all participating bodies are asked to provide their questions and difficulties they may have encountered in the interpretation, either coming up through the CABs or as a result of the AB's questions themselves. These are then provided to the workshop, and answers are drafted, which are then tabled at the meetings, and wording is discussed, and there's often a lot of toing and froing until there's an agreed answer. These are then agreed at the following meeting, and a text is approved and is available on the FAQ database on the website.
Okay. I have another one here, just regarding the inspection body. Can it be accredited as a type A for a certain scope, and then also for a different type for another scope? And in this case, the inspection body is completely independent for a certain type of product, but not for another. I think that itself is answered in P15 4.1.6. So it says an inspection body may have different types of inspection for different inspection activities listed on the scope. However, it is not possible for an inspection body to offer different independent types for the same inspection activity. So that's answered itself in P15.
So this just needs to be very clear from the point of view of the items inspected and what is reflected on the scope. And we would probably have two different sections of the scope identifying the type A activities and the other activities that would be provided.
Okay.
There's a question, does ILAC G27 mentioned only and referred to clause 6.2? I don't have that detail to the top of my head and I don't have G27, but I can definitely come back to you on that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So we have another one.
I think
that's the questions we've got so far in there. Was there any other ones we?
No, I think that's.
No, I think that looks like everything. Right.
Very good. Okay, thank you all for joining this morning. If you are really out there, it's a bit tricky when you can't see anybody. But if there are any other questions that you think of after the event, please you can email myself or James, and our contact details are on the ILAC website. And thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.